Meeting order, the Newman City Council and Redevelopment Agency of February 27th, 2007. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads, please. Lord, give us the intelligence and wisdom to make some very good decisions tonight for the people of Newman. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ted. Yeah, roll call, please.
Councilmember Kane? Present. Councilmember Kelly?
Present.
Councilmember Crinkloff?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina?
Present.
Mayor Fantasia?
Present. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none. Ceremonial matters. We have none. Items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything that they'd like to bring before us that is not on the posted agenda, now would be the time.
Mr. Mayor and council members, on behalf of the Oris Nimba 50 Plus Club, we would like to thank you and Ernie for installing and furnishing us with the new bingo board and the game. We enjoyed it very much. We broke it in the other 2 weeks ago, and there's people are going gaga over this. So I want to thank you all for having done that.
Good, that's what we like to hear. Have you won yet, Ken? I called. Oh, okay, sorry. Conflict then, huh? Any other non-agenda items? Seeing non-agenda items, when the item comes before us and you'd like to comment on it, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to under 3 minutes. We have no public hearings this evening. Item 9, consent calendar. Item A, approval of warrants. And item B, approval of minutes of the February 13th, 2007 regular meeting. A motion to approve the consent calendar.
I so move for approval of consent calendar.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 10 under regular business, item A, adopt resolution certifying the Newman 2030 General Plan, 2007 exit number, certify its final environmental impact report, adopt findings relating to significant impacts, alternatives, and statement of overriding considerations, and adopt the Newman 2030 General Plan.
Thank you, Mayor. At the request of the Newman Crows Landing School District, staff is recommending that we continue this item to March 27th so that the city and the school district can contemplate further language.
If everybody concurs with that, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bob.
I so move that we continue this for 30 days.
Second that motion.
Let's give the date of that.
It'll be March 27th.
March 27th, our second meeting in March. Who seconded, I'm sorry?
I did.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. If anybody'd like to comment on the delay or any other short, brief comment, otherwise we will move on. See nothing. Item B, thank you for coming, by the way, if you were just here for that item, sorry.
John, that's not fair.
We do validate too, so.
Wow, how about a way to clear out a room?
Jesus.
It's not so much what you say, it's the way you say it, John.
That's it.
What did we say? Wow. There goes all our people.
There goes all our audience. Okay, item B, award bid for the Parks and Landscape Maintenance District Services. I believe this is Ernie's item. He's making his way up here after being the greeter.
Oh, Tim, didn't see it.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. The item before you is, has to do with the awarded bids for parks and landscape maintenance. As stated in the staff report, We advertised for bids for parks and landscape maintenance services. The 4 parks that we put out to bid was the Alfred Bush Rose Jr. Park, Janet Carlson, Joanne Borba Park, and the William Ray Sherman Park. And of course, the landscape maintenance districts that are throughout the city. We had potential bidders. There were 22 requests for bid packages, and we had 10 landscape contractors actually submit sealed bids. Attached to your staff report, you have the list of the 10 bidders and their addresses, phone numbers, and the bid amounts. The bids range from a high annual amount of $587,600 to the low amount of $63,440.
Still can't believe that difference.
Why is there such a huge difference?
And some of those bidders are from the Bay Area.
Jeez.
So you really didn't want to work.
Well, they were gonna make a killing if they did get it. And so Johnson Landscape Company is a low bidder. Johnson Landscape Company is presently contracted by the city of Patterson for parks and landscape services, and they've also done some work for the city of Turlock in the past. Their address is actually Crow's Landing. So our staff recommendation is that we award the bid to Johnson Landscape Company for $63,440. Any
Yeah,
questions?
I had checked with Mike on this too.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just curious, did anybody check with Turlock? Did they ever call you back about how Johnson does over there? 'Cause-
I did call. I talked to a
Tad, talking to your mic.
Oh,
We're
I'm
getting
sorry.
the evil eye from Bob.
Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Bob.
I did talk to a gentleman by the name of Rick Larkin, I believe, and they had done some of the landscape in the downtown area in the past. They no longer do it, but that was back when they used to do their potted plants and stuff, sort of like what we've got in the downtown area.
Well, Mike checked, and I know he was up at Patterson, and he said that he never heard a bad thing. So, I mean, it's a good thing. The reason I was even talking to him about it is because Garcia was next, but it's
Right.
$30,000.
Yes.
And I'm just
quite a
wondering, and
difference.
it's, as long as it's apples to apples,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, I believe
they
it.
were all present. They all had to sign a sheet where they said that they actually came out, investigated the work to be done, talked with us,
Excellent.
and so that they would know that they were all bidding on the same thing.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Ernie, the term of the bid's 1 year, 1 year contract?
It's a contract for 3 years, and it has the option on the contract documents, whereas either party can request to terminate the contract at any time with a 30-day notice, and also at the end of the 3-year period, you have the option of, if it's mutually agreeable, to continue with the contract extended for a longer period of time, of course, with the council's approval.
Further questions for Ernie? If not, some direction?
I would move to award the Parks and Landscape Maintenance District Services to Johnson Landscape Company in the amount of $63,440 for the annual fee.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you.
Item C, award bid for the Yolo Street Sidewalk Infill Project.
Again, this is another bid that Public Works Department advertised. This has to do with the sidewalk infill project. Work calls for removal and replacement of curb returns, relocation of drain inlets for their storm drain system, and installation of sidewalks and driveway aprons on the south side of Yolo from Highway 33 all the way to S Street. We only had 3 sealed bids for this project. They're listed there: Wickham Construction, $253,562. BDS Construction from Chowchilla, $214,784.20, and Tykert Construction from Turlock Office, $205,539.10. We took all those bid documents and we submitted them to Gary Davis at GDR Engineering so that he could review them. He found everything to be in order. City of Newman has $377,000 in CDBG monies available to complete various projects. The approved project budgeted amount had been $150,000. So staff is proposing that the additional $55,539.10 be deducted from that $377,000 amount and be assigned to this project so that we can award this project and complete it. So staff recommendation is to award a bid to Tiger Construction for $205,539.10. Any questions?
Questions for Ernie? If not, direction?
I would move to award the bid for the Yellow Street Sidewalk Infield Project to Tiger Construction in the amount of $205,539.10.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item D, adopt resolution number 2007, next number, amending the annual transportation claim and authorizing the city manager to execute the same on behalf of the city of Newman.
Again, this is the amendment of our transportation claim to StanCog. We had originally submitted a claim for $119,604, but as we had reported to the council before, StanCog has a proportion, an additional $74,708 in LTF funds. So this amended claim kicks up that amount to $194,312. So again, there's no cost in submitting for the claim, but we do need to adopt this resolution so that we can claim the full amount and use it for our pavement management system.
Questions?
Questions?
If there's no questions, direction?
I so move for adoption of resolution number 2007, next number, amending the annual transportation claim and authorizing the city manager to execute the same on behalf of the city of Newman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item E, adopt resolution number 2007, number 2007, next number, declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281 of the city of Newman, abatement of mistletoe.
Mr. Mayor, council members, this is a code enforcement issue. It has to do with mistletoe. It's an evergreen parasitic plant that grows on a number of trees throughout California, has green stems with thick leaves that are nearly oval in shape, and the plants, of course, produce small, sticky, whitish berries. And the berries are very attractive to birds. The birds come and feed on them. They digest the pulp of the berries, and of course, the birds excrete the living seeds that stick tightly to any branch of trees, and thereby spreading out the infestations. So it's important for us to remove the mistletoe before it does that. We do that by mechanical pruning is the most effective method of controlling it, because you can't completely eradicate it. We did send notices to inform property owners of all the nuisance abatement procedures, and of course their right to object at tonight's public hearing. We sent out a full list that was attached to the report in your packet, showing the number of notices that went out. And prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting, I handed out a new list that was done this afternoon. And these are the list of properties that have not complied with the abatement notice. So we're recommending that you declare the existence of public nuisance under ordinance number 281 for these properties.
Questions? We went from 31 to 23, so we're getting closer. Some direction then?
I'd move to adopt resolution number 2007, next number, declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281 of the city of Newman, abatement of mistletoe.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item F, adopt resolution number 2007, next number, approving the water system improvements for the villas at Sherman Ranch subdivision.
Mr. Mayor, this was one of the requirements that was in the agreement with SCM Capital Company, the issuance of performance bonds for the water system improvements for the villas. And SEM is presently requesting the release of the bonds that the city of Newman approve and accept said improvements. All the underground service improvements have been completed. This for job plans and specifications, and they've been approved as installed by myself and the Public Works Superintendent. So it's recommended that City Council approve the water system improvements by adopting said resolution. Any questions?
Questions for Ernie? Not? Direction?
I move for adoption.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ernie.
That's it, Ernie? That's all you have?
Probably should have said you did your staff report since you were there. Item G, interview and appointment of members to fill vacancies on the Planning Commission and the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick change and some notes and stuff. Mr. Dwight Wilkins has asked that his name be withdrawn from consideration of the Planning Commission. He would like to also, though, continue his service on the Recreation Commission at this time. So please consider him in that application at the second interview process. And the second part is Mr. Edward Moore is sick at this time and would be unavailable to be interviewed today for the Planning Commission. And he has also submitted his name for the Parks and Recreation vacancies on there. With respect to the Parks and Recreation Commission, there are 3 vacancies due to the expiring terms. I know Commissioner Rangel and Commissioner Wilkins have submitted applications for reappointment, and Mr. Edward Moore has also submitted his name for appointment should he not be successful with the appointment of the Planning Commissioner here. So, I apologize to Mr. Jeff Vandervold. I don't know him personally, but I'm assuming this is him in the front row.
No.
No? Oh, I'm sorry. Jeff is not here either?
He was probably leaving back, and I talked to Ferris about letting him come down here. He's in the play, which starts Friday.
Okay.
And so I imagine she didn't tell him anything about it. I'm sure it might come to think, but he definitely is interested in this.
So unfortunately, we don't have any of our applicants here today.
So let me see if I can understand
Mr.
this.
Allen, who is also seeking reappointment on the Planning Commission, with the original anticipation that we were going to have the general plan meeting tonight, we indicated to her that if she came down after 8, it would probably be okay. She was willing to come down, but she didn't want to have to wait all the way through the evening. We had a very lengthy agenda, so we put it at the very end, and unfortunately, she's not here at this time, but she is seeking reappointment. I would imagine she's probably on about her 3rd or 4th term at this time.
So then we have actually 3 applicants for 2 positions on the Planning Commission then.
That's correct. You have Ms. Deborah Allen, who's seeking reappointment. You have Mr. Edward Moore, who's seeking appointment for the term that's open due to resignation, and Mr. Jeff Vandervold, who is also seeking an appointment at this time.
What do you want to do, gentlemen? I don't know offhand who Jeff Vandervoort is. I believe if I see him, I probably would recognize him. I know we've heard a presentation from Edward Woody, and Debbie is on the commission right now, so I'm open to whatever you guys would like to do.
I'd like to delay it till the next meeting.
Yeah,
and
I
interview
think
the
it's
people there.
unusual that we don't have them present.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know Jeff, and I'd like to meet Jeff. I know the other 2 very well, but I'd like to meet Jeff too.
Okay? Does everybody concur with that?
In agreement.
Okay. Rec Commission?
Rec Commission, again, we have 3 vacancies due to expiring terms. Commissioner Rangel and Commissioner Wilkins have submitted for reappointment. And then you have the 3rd vacancy, and the only other potential applicant would be Mr. Moore. And it was his desire first to seek appointment on the Planning Commission, second to seek appointment on the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Would it be appropriate to reappoint the two that are on there and then wait till the next meeting to fill the third vacancy on the Rec Commission?
Yeah, that may be appropriate, so that way if there is any matters that need to be, business that needs to be taking place in March, that can occur.
That would what I would suggest.
Sounds good.
Second it too.
We need a motion for that. Please.
I make a motion that we reappoint the first two people and we hold off on the third appointment to the following meeting. Which is the date, Michael? I'm not sure on that.
That'd be March 13th.
March 13th.
13th.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Just as a point of business, Ms. Allen was seeking a reappointment. Was there any desire to
I would
look
say-
at that right now?
I would
and
think we'd
hold
reappoint
one
her.
open for the two remaining applicants?
I would be in favor
Me
of
too.
I would-
reappointing her.
Definitely.
That would be appropriate. Yes.
So I'll make that motion that we, Deborah Allen be reappointed to the Planning Commission.
We have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item H, introduction and waiving of first reading of ordinance amendments pertaining to code enforcement.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last meeting, we had discussed some potential code amendments to the Newman Municipal Code, mostly dealing with public nuisance and code enforcement procedures and issues. At this particular time, what we're going to recommend is we receive comments from the public, and then if the council so desires, we're recommending that you introduce the ordinance and waive the reading. And then at the next meeting, which would be on March 13th, we would conduct a public hearing on that once we got some final wording on there. And discussing that with our city attorney, that is still an appropriate course. And we have got public notice in the newspaper for that to occur in that direction. So with that, I will go into our proposed changes, modifications, additions, and deletions to the Newman Municipal Code. The first item that we're proposing deals with the storage of the trash cans, trash containers. Currently, the way our code reads is and I'll read it. All curb and alley service customers shall place their refuge at the curb or in the alley not later than 4 a.m. on the day of the collection and shall remove the refuge containers from the curb or alley on the same day of the collection. It kind of has a little loophole in there as, basically they could remove it from the street and just move it right behind the edge of the sidewalk and store it out in front of the public view all week long, or they could leave them in the alleyway all week long for public view. The proposed change, and at the end of that would be remove the refuge containers from the curb or alley on the same day of the collection, and the additional wording that we're proposing is, and be stored behind a wall, fence, or within a building and not be visible from the public right-of-way. And this would affect both all residents that either have curb and or alley service on there. So I can answer any questions that you may have with respect to that one. Or move on. The second one is the addition of Chapter 10 to Title 9 of the Newman Municipal Code as stated in Attachment A of your submittal. And that really is a new ordinance that pertains to regulating the storage and depositing non-vehicular objects on the city right-of-ways. The biggest issue that we have at this time, and it has come before us and we receive complaints, is the roll-out basketball hoops that are pretty commonplace in communities today. And it's not that the kids play in the street, and that could be a public health and safety issue, but the biggest issue is that they're not putting them away when they're done. And so they get stored over there. And if you were driving down Kern Street today around 5 o'clock, someone didn't put theirs away and the wind had blown it over and it was sticking probably maybe 2 to 3 feet away from the travel lane out in the middle of the road. So that really did provide a public health and safety issue, not only for vehicles, bicyclists, and it can also be something, potential hazard for pedestrians as well. So with that, staff has submitted that ordinance for council's review and consideration. Number 3, Newman Municipal Code. This is a repeal and a change. Right now, the way the Newman Municipal Code reads, no person who owns or has possession, custody, or control of any vehicle shall park such vehicle on any street or alley for more than a consecutive period, and currently it's 5 days. Staff is recommending we change 5 to 3, and that would make us consistent with state law. Also, to go along with that, there's an extra code section there. It says any vehicle that has been parked or left standing upon a street, alley, or highway for, it says 5, we'd like to change that to 3 consecutive days. And then it allows for the police department to then have the opportunity to remove those vehicles based upon that code change. And again, that's consistency, changing everything from 5 days to 3 days, which is consistent with state law. And the last one is in our public nuisance code section. And the way the code currently reads is accumulation and storage for a period in excess of 10 days of abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or in an inoperative condition, any licensed or unlicensed vehicle, trailer, camper, boat, or any other mobile equipment or parts thereof, unless such vehicle part thereof is completely enclosed in a building or located behind a solid 6-foot fence in height, in a lawful manner where such part is not plainly visible from the street or other public or private property, or unless such vehicle is stored or parked or in a lawful manner on private property in connection with the business of a licensed dismantler, licensed vehicle repairer, or licensed vehicle dealer. What we're trying to achieve here, and I'll talk about the changes, is we're trying to prevent and prohibit the storage of all vehicles in landscape strips, on people's front lawns, where it's just accumulation of vehicles that becomes an aesthetic eyesore for the neighboring properties. So what we're proposing is you strike the following words: of abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or in inoperative condition. So therefore, even if it is a licensed vehicle, but they're not moving it, it's just being stored there for a period in excess of 10 days, and they're not moving it, then there's an opportunity for that issue to be abated through code enforcement. It also allows, it does not apply to vehicles that are being stored or parked on a residential driveway. So there is an appropriate place to put vehicles, and it is in the garage and in the residential driveways, and it's not on the rest of the lawns and in the landscape strips and on the public rights of way. So that's what we're trying to accomplish through the changes of these municipal code sections. So with that, I can answer any questions that any of the council members may have pertaining to any of these items that I've just talked about.
Mike, and I like the changes. I guess the biggest issue I'm gonna have is with the consistency that we apply these. Rather not on a hit and miss, or somebody complains, so we go out and do something about it, but try to be consistent. I think it's gonna be much more received. It's gonna tick people off anyway, but I think it's gonna be better received if we're consistent enforcing these actions. And I totally agree that we need to do something in terms with our code enforcement and keep our city neat and clean, beautiful. But my concern is that we be consistent.
Sure. One of the things that I'm going to bring, this will be brought back before you at your March 13th meeting, is we're asking you to approve a new position that would be created within the city of Newman, and that would be a community service officer, a quality of life officer, if you will, code enforcement, and it would balance, and it would be stationed out of the police department. And it has two facets to it. One is, as a community service officer, that person would be responsible for taking reports of cold cases. Someone stole my bicycle, someone stole my lawnmower. This way, that community service officer can go out there, take the report, and you don't have to have a uniformed patrol officer doing that and occupying his time with that. That can be done through a community service officer, which is I'm not exactly sure if it's a non-sworn position or not, but we're still working out those details right now. Also, that particular position would be responsible for code enforcement, for parking violations, quality of life issues that are being addressed in the city of Newman, barking dogs and those types of things. I think that would free up additional time for our patrol officers, our uniformed officers to go on calls that require a little bit more expediency, and not necessarily that these are unimportant. It's just that we feel that the opportunity to free up the uniformed officers' time and use the community service officers' time for this would be a valuable service to that. Not only to the police department, but it would bring some legitimacy to the position, because now you have this person in uniform who's going to be doing code enforcement as well, and following up and tracking that. They'll be doing parking violations and the like. So we hope to bring that position, the description of that position, to you on March 13th, and that's how we plan to proceed forward with code enforcement in the community of Newman. So I'm not asking you to approve that now, but that'll be something that for the personnel record that we're bringing back. And we think that's an excellent opportunity, again, to free up additional police officer time, to have someone who's dedicated to quality of life issues and code enforcement issues, and non-emergency issues that the police department can respond to.
Questions? If not, I'll need a motion exactly as it's written there. And also to mention that we will have a formal public hearing on March 13th.
Correct. Can we waive the first reading?
That's in
It's in
He
the,
said, yeah, if you read it as is, you'll cover everything.
whoever makes the motion, just read H exactly as it's written, and we'll be okay. Anybody?
I would move introduction and waiving a first reading of ordinance amendments pertaining to code enforcement.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. I think at this time I'd invite our Supervisor DeMartini to come on up and let us know what happened at the board meeting today. Myself and the city manager, Michael Holland, attended the meeting about the cruise landing base. I believe it started deliberations, about at 9:15, and it got done about 12:20. So I'll let Supervisor fill us in on what happened.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Fantasia, members of the council. We did have the meeting today to pick the master developer to develop the Crow's Landing Air Base. It was quite a lengthy meeting. We had 26 different speakers. Of course, then the board comments, presentation from the developers. So it took almost 3.5 hours. The vote was split vote, which I knew it would be, but it was 3-2 to pick the West Park development. I was on the losing side of that. Voting with me was Supervisor O'Brien, and voting opposite of me was Supervisors Mayfield, Monteith, and Grover. I did mention the letter that we did get from the City of Newman to stay within the original footprint. I also had a letter from City of Patterson, who preferred the Hillwood proposal, and we did get a letter today from the Patterson School District that also wanted the Hillwood proposal. I went into probably at least 20 different points that I was trying to make about the rail, residential housing, regional mall that's proposed by the landfill, and the problems in getting the rail bond money, and the feasibility of the rail in general, since it will lose money on every container that goes out. It appears to me that the board already had its mind made up, because there was very little comment on what I made today. I probably spoke for between 10 and 15 minutes bringing up these points. I think they were all valid points. But I was on the losing end, so sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I will tell you that this one was very disappointing for me, since it is the area that I represent, and I feel that the majority of the board sold out the west side on this developer. The proposal now goes for a specific plan. We have. Under this agreement, we have a developer, which is the Camillus Group, West Park, who will go into negotiations with the county now for a specific plan. That may take a year, but we should have a pretty good idea within about 6 months where we're going. the steering committee will still continue to meet, and we'll be going over this plan as it develops. For those of you who don't know, the West Park plan originally was 12,000 acre development. They have since cut that to 4,500 acres. The other developer was stayed within the footprint of the request for proposal of 1,500 acres. West Park's proposal includes rail. We had discussion about housing. They haven't specifically said that there was going to be any housing, but I did bring that up. The regional mall at the landfill was another part of their proposal, which I was not in favor of. So we will start negotiating with this developer now and trying to come up with some type of plan. I would assume that the plan would be at least 4,500 acres. What it will entail with the rail and everything else is hard to say. But that's where we are right now. It was, I say, quite a lengthy meeting and a lot to be said. There was quite a few people from the west side there. Not all spoke, but we did have 26 people, and I would say at least 20 of them were from this area. I don't know what else I can say. I'm glad to answer the questions on where it went, but as I say, it was very disappointing to me how the vote came down.
Questions for Jim?
Jim, I'm just wondering, did they talk about the airstrip? What was the talk about that?
The only one that spoke to the airstrip developing the airport was the Hillwood Group, which is the Ross Perot company, and they were wanting to bring in very light jets into that area.
Yeah.
Very light jets are something that's brand new. They're 4-passenger to 6-passenger jet aircraft, air taxis, they call them, where you could get somebody to fly you somewhere, say Las Vegas or something, and if you had 4 people, and you could go. It's a new concept in aviation. That's about the only discussion of using the airport. I could tell you that the county is still in negotiations with the Department of Forestry, which is now called CAL FIRE, to bring in firefighting aircraft from Hollister. They're still interested in that, and we're interested in them. We must have a tenant, a usable airport, in order to get grant funding from the FAA. And the minimum requirement is 10 aircraft. The Department of Forestry, we feel, would be a good tenant. They would not use the airstrip very much, just in the summertime for fire. And they would give us our 10 aircraft. That would include helicopters, too. And we would be able to get enough money from the federal government to fix up the airport, remodeling the tower, putting in lights, fuel tanks, and some resurfacing on the runways. But that's a separate deal from what we were negotiating today. But Hillwood was the only one who ever expressed an interest in using it as an airport. The other developer, his proposal revolved just about rail cars from the Port of Oakland and bringing in containers and loading them on trucks.
Everything I read in the paper about that with the rail was that, it's a long shot to get the money, to get the bill.
Ted, talk in your mic. You're going to get yelled at again.
Sorry, Bob. It's a long shot to get the money for the rail. What was the justification for those 3 voting for this? What swayed everybody into this decision?
His politics and campaign contributions would be my best answer for that. You're very kind in saying that the money is hard to get. I think it's even more than that. I brought a copy of the latest rail proposals and what has been tentatively approved by the state of California. The bond is, rail bond part is $2 billion. We're not on the list. The entire $2 billion is already spoken for in specific projects. I brought it, I held it up, I said we're not in the list. There was really no denial of that. We're not in the list. Had we been on the list, and the estimated cost to bring rail cars into Crow's Landing area is about $92 million. Now, I won't say that figure is accurate because somebody could say, well, it's only 80 million, but we're talking about a real lot of money. The chance of getting any money from the state is slim at best, and the money that we would get would be at most half. So if it cost $90 million, the state, if we were able to get the money, would put up $45 million, leaving another $45 million to be matched. And I made it a point that the county was in no position to match that money. No one has stepped forward to put up that money. Also, there is no rail company who's expressed any interest in coming in the Crow's Landing, and any rail company that would have to use Union Pacific and the Burlington Northern Santa Fe's tracks and rent those out of Oakland. They have not expressed any desire to do that. So the question of how we're going to get rail into there and who's going to pay for it is a big question to me. I did bring that up. I got no comment from anyone on the board except Supervisor O'Brien, who also expressed that concern too. So unless we start printing our own money down in the basement of the county building, I don't see how we're going to come up with $90 million to bring rail cars into Crow's Landing. So that is certainly going to be the question that we're going to ask the developer quite soon.
So they awarded it and have no idea how to pay for it. This sounds like the federal government.
That's essentially correct. In fact, I went I don't believe that the rail proposal is real because of the tremendous cost. No railroad interested, and then having to get cooperation of Burlington Northern and Union Pacific. And the rail study that the county has paid for from Rail Pro showed that even if rail was there, that it would need a subsidy, and it would lose money on every container that came out of that facility. And the developer said he would come up with the subsidy and on a parcel tax on the land, which is has a legal question of how can somebody be forced to pay an assessment if they don't get benefit from the rail. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. I believe my concerns were valid, although they went primarily on deaf ears. In fact, it's hard for me to say that the rail project is a real proposal. It's an idea with no money, and I called it a Trojan horse, was for residential housing. I still believe, I may be wrong, but I still believe that's the real issue there is the residential housing. I don't believe that the developer was interested in a 12,000 acre industrial park or a 4,500 acre industrial park. I believe it's something else than that, but time will tell. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Jim, I personally want to thank you as a councilman and as a citizen of the West Side, Newman, for taking care of our interests the way I think that you wanted to take care of our interests, and I do want to thank you for that.
If anyone would like to see my comments on it, on our website, if you go to the Board of Supervisors and click on that meeting, we do have videotape of it over the web, and you can see word for word what was said, although it is a long meeting. So, no. But it's all there, and it's there and on tape for everybody to see, and it's always online, if there's any question.
It was a long meeting, I'll agree with you there.
That was a long one, you know, I'm glad it's over. It didn't go the way I wanted, but there's been a lot of political maneuvering on this proposal, far more than what I think it should have been. Steering committee has been dealing with this project for 7 years. I've chaired it for the last 2. So there's been a lot of thought and effort that has went into the request for proposal, which I would remind this council that the request for proposal, as you know, was 1,527 acres. It wasn't 12,000, it wasn't 4,500 or anything else between. It was 1,527. But the proposal that was taken was the larger one. So.
Jim, one further question. If the rail part of this proposal does not work out, where does it go from there? Does the 4,500 acres get developed into homes, no rail proposal, no industrial park like you
Well,
possibly
that's the
think would
question.
happen?
I talked to county council today about that same question. And because the county now has to negotiate a deal. And if there is no rail proposal, what is it that they're going to do with that area? And if it's for residential housing, I think that, you know, then it's going to go back to the board as a residential project, perhaps. I just don't know. I think that the most that I would be willing to give the developer, I guess it's up to the rest of the board too, but 6 months to show us how this rail project is going to be feasible. But with all the questions of the funding and no railroad company interested in the project, and the question about the tracks from Burlington Northern and Union Pacific and the subsidy that's going to be required. I mean, the developer admitted that they were going to lose money on every container that went out of that place, and then how that's going to get paid for. And our rail study showed that it was cheaper to go by truck with containers from this area to either Oakland or Lathrop or Stockton. And I talked to one very large company this last week who ships containers worldwide, both import and export. They didn't want me to use their name, but they're the largest shipping container in Stanislaus County, that business. And they told me that the rail was unfeasible in Crow's Landing. It just didn't work out financially, and they wouldn't use it. And this is a company that is the largest company that ships containers in the county. So I'd really rather not say who they are. They asked me not to, but they'll probably come out eventually. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. A lot. I mean, there's still how we're going to deal with this regional mall, which is a proposal to, you know, put a mall up next to the landfill, which I, you know, obviously am not for, but that is part of the proposal. So with that and the residential housing and the rail, you know, I know I'm quite surprised. I just don't know what to tell you. It didn't go the way I thought, and to me, it didn't make a whole lot of sense of what the board did today.
Seems to me they'd probably have better luck putting regional mall at Diablo Grande than they would out by the landfill.
Well, that is a proposal.
In and out of there with an accident? Good luck.
So when we get into specific proposals, that's one of the things that we're going to have to deal with.
But it scares me that you're saying that, and I don't know what your legal people said, that, I mean, let's say he comes back in 6 months and says that, you know, it's not feasible, but I can build, you know, 14 million homes here. What recourse? I mean, it sounds like you said it's politics right now, and those three are going to vote again. So we're going to get, pardon the expression, screwed on the west side.
Well, it's going to have to go back to the board again. I mean, just because he proposes, there is no real proposal. It's not a specific proposal. Even Hillwoods was not specific.
Yeah.
They just gave us a general idea of what they were going to do.
How they would do it.
Now they have to get specific. And it will go back to the board for approval.
Okay.
And it may go several times in stages. But we are, what the vote was today was really to pick a developer to go into exclusive negotiations with. Now, when they come up with a specific plan, and it may be, a part of a plan, maybe might have to vote on this 3 times, but it will go back to the board each time. And it may be just once, it may be 3 or 4 times. And then the board will have to vote again. So, if we get a proposal of, 30,000 homes out there, then it will go back to the board. And I would probably suggest that all of you come to the board meeting and make a comment about it.
But Jim, on the board there, you have that gentleman that took the contribution, which he didn't know about, which, yeah. But I mean, I'm getting into stuff I don't want to get into.
I really rather not comment about the
I know.
$28,000 the Supervisor Grover got, but he did admit that today, because he didn't know anything about
But he
it.
still voted.
Well, legally, he could vote. County Council did look at it. It was an independent expenditure by the developer to put out flyers against his opponent. So it is actually legal. I think maybe the state legislature ought to take a look at that law, but it was legal, and the money did not go directly into that supervisor's campaign. It was done by somebody else, which was the developer, and they funded and printed and mailed several flyers out without coordination with the Supervisor Grover's campaign. So since there was no coordination there that could be shown and the developer paid for it all, it was legal. Now that's,
Yeah, is it ethical?
well,
You're trying, that's true.
I just really won't even
Shame,
comment on that, but
Take that course.
well, I'm just not going to say.
Supervisor, as always, thank you very much, and thank you for attending our meetings.
Thank you,
We
Jim.
really appreciate it.
We appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank
Your
you.
support, buddy.
I will just real briefly, Mayor, I will be coming back to this council in about another month with a proposal to build some healthcare facilities on the west side. And it's about a task force that I'm forming between the whole west side area, but including both healthcare districts of Del Puerto and West Side who have cooperated. And I will be going next week to make a presentation to the Patterson City Council. And I will be coming, excuse me, to Newman and then to Gustine. And this is, I won't say any more about that now because I'm not quite ready. I'm pretty drained from today. But we will give a presentation next month and ask for your cooperation on this task force.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Staff reports, Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to echo Councilman Krinclaw's comments and thank Supervisor DeMartini. I think he did a great job at the meeting today, pointing out the strong points of one group over the other, and he did a good job representing the county. And ultimately, it's a political decision. You're not absent from those. You make them all the time. There's decisions that have to be made. So, unfortunately, it didn't go in the way we anticipated. But the city of Newman, we're ready to proceed forward and work with the developer that they've chosen. It cannot deter us from continuing to move forward and develop a successful relationship, whichever developer was selected. In this particular point, with West Park. So within the next week or two, I'll be making contact with that group and making sure that they understand fully what our desires are of the project, and making sure that we are considered when the project is drafted up. So with that, I will also follow up a letter this week or probably early next week to the CEO, Rick Robinson, letting him know that we'd like to have representatives or somehow try to be involved in the development agreement process. That's a very important process that's going to take place, even as much so as a specific plan that will be crafted is this development agreement that's going to be crafted between the developer and the county on there. So it's probably highly doubtful that we'll be successful in trying to get ourselves into that meeting so we can hear what's going on in there, but we'll make every effort that we can to make sure that the city of Newman is represented in all of those negotiations.
And I'm on that steering committee still, so
Correct.
Whenever we do start meeting again, I'll definitely keep the council informed.
Yeah. And that's part of the questions I will have for the CEO, Mr. Robinson, is will the committee be involved as part of the development agreement process, or is that going to be exclusively limited to just the CEO and a couple of his staffers and the master developer? It's very important for us to understand how that process is going to work and see if we cannot at least have a seat at the table, whether it's a voting or non-voting seat. At least we're at the table and we can hear the negotiations and make sure that the city is being adequately represented there. So. With that, moving on to something a little bit better for situation for us, and I am pleased to announce we did have the William Ray Sherman Park dedication this weekend. I thought the event was excellent. It was well attended. All of our council members were here. We had Park and Recreation Commission, the superintendent of schools there. That was very nice. I think that the developer put together the event, did a good job. You show up to the event and it was nice to tune up. A lesser scale, it could have been a wedding reception. Nice round tables, tablecloths, centerpieces, nice tent facility. They did a very good job. I think Mr. Sherman was very pleased with the event and how it turned out, and so I think it was a good honor and a good dedication ceremony. And then you go over afterwards, and the Villas did have their grand opening event, and my kids did pony rides for like 2 hours. They never had to get off. They just down there forever. So I thought it was very nice. So March 13th, we are finishing up with the master agreement for the aquatic center, and the first two tasks, which is the site selection and some needs assessment. And what we will be doing is evaluating basically what the needs of our community are right now, and what our recreational needs will be in the next 10 and 20 years, so that we can and plan appropriately, and making sure that we are not being short-sighted with the facility that we do design, and that not only meets the needs of our current residents, but also our future residents as well. So also I'll be making contact with our appraiser, and hopefully we can have some preliminary report for you in or around that time. So you did receive a letter today from the Housing Authority. They wanted to thank the city council, which also serves as the board for the redevelopment agency there. In your budget for this year, you did put in money to help them repair that fence. And I think if you look at the before fence versus the after fence, you can see that was in a great state of disrepair. And I think the residents of in that area that own the homes, as well as the residents of the facility, are greatly appreciative of your offer and did that. That was a matching fund. That was 50% redevelopment agency, 50% housing authority on that cost. I know Mr. Maddenwall came up and thanked you today for the bingo board. Also, I'd like to thank our assistant planner, Stephanie Garcia. She did a great job of just tracking one down. I mean, she put a lot of time and effort into that, and tracked one down, got a good deal on it, got him to deliver it, and she really worked through the system on that one and put a good effort, and was able to provide a quality recreational opportunity for the 50+ club. That was one of the main things that they had always asked for, and she accommodated them, and we couldn't get it done in CDBG money, but we were able to find some additional funds. I think we were looking at the magnitude of order of about $500. And that was probably below fair market value for the facility. So, and then lastly, at the March 13th meeting, 211 is a program that was brought to this council probably 6 or 10 months ago. And 211 is United Way, and it's a 211 is a phone number that people can call to get referrals to services, social services through the county, Meals on Wheels, or whatever type of social services that they need. So they're going to be coming to you with the request for funding over the next 3 years. I think it's based on population of the county. I think the city's fair share contribution is around $1,000 a year for about 3 years. So that's currently what they're going to be requesting of the staff. So that'll be a full presentation to you on the 13th. So with that, that's all the information that I had at this time.
Questions for Michael?
Michael, could you just follow up on that? I talked to you about that code enforcement issue over in Hidden Canyon. Could you just make sure that gets checked
Yes,
on?
I definitely will.
And let me know so I can let that resident know what's going on.
That email was forwarded forward. So
Okay, thank you.
At my Monday morning staff report, I will check on
Thank you.
that and get that responded to.
Thank you, Michael. Other staff reports?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. A couple of things that we have going on in the police department. One is our staffing levels. We have a new officer we've put on the street as of the 15th of February. We have a official offer out for another officer, and we're in background with a third, so we should be up to full staff. We're looking tentatively by April 15th. Everything goes well, so as long as there's no monkey wrenches thrown in our direction, it should work out very well and be up to full staff. Should be very thankful. Next thing we're working on is also with that. As I said, we had that officer that we hired in February. We're also looking to bring him up to you guys for a badge pinning, kind of introduce him to the city. So it's kind of a formal process. Because our original process we have isn't very conducive for family and that kind of event that we would like to put on. The other thing we're working on is. Just let you know, if you haven't read it already in the paper, but the shooting suspect for the 2004 Joey Newman is already in custody in Mexico and is being extradited back up here and to be held accountable for that case. Thirdly, we are, as a memo I put out to you folks, got started on this parking regulations, and it hasn't been touched in a long time, and I started working on trying to clean that up, but it seemed like one thing led to another, so we're hoping to bring you a professional product coming up here on the next meeting in March, and we'll work through that, and it should be happy with the product that we're going to be providing to you, and I'll answer any kind of questions you may have.
Chief, I don't have anything on that particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to do a follow-up on, in January, I'd asked you if you'd heard from Belinda Glenn from OTS. Have you ever heard from her?
I have not heard back from her. I've called her and emailed her.
Okay. Yeah, but you haven't heard anything from her?
No, but what I did find from other staff members was that the deadline to meet that was
January 31st. We
yes.
missed the deadline.
Well, yeah, January 31st, but we were it's a very aggressive timeline to be able to meet that. And,
yeah, there was about 3 weeks left, I think, when we brought that up. Are we participating in the Avoid the 12 program? Are we sending officers to participate in that program?
We do, and we have officers available. Our staffing levels have been such that we have not participated in that.
And how about in the click it ticket, the seatbelt enforcement?
We are part of that, and that's scheduled to go in spring.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor, just a point of clarification from the parking issue was at the request of Councilman Martina. We were looking at Hills Ferry Road and doing some time parking there, and also in the staff reports of last week, we were looking at the Hardin Road issue, and that's what the mayor was, or the chief was speaking about when he talked about bringing those back forward. Those are, I'm not sure if they're resolutions or ordinances that you pass, but marking them no parking or timed parking zones. So there is a process by which we have to go forward with, but we started looking and doing our due diligence, and at Councilman Martinez's request, and it's an excellent idea to put some time parking out there to make sure that our residents are safe and that those streets are cleared at the appropriate times.
And also, I'd like to see that we could restrict trucks from parking along there too.
That's definitely, oh yeah, that's definitely part of it.
Other staff reports? Ernie? You've said it all, I guess.
He's all through.
Nothing from Terry this evening? I noticed that Debbie Allen came in. Debbie, congratulations, you've been reappointed to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. I apologize for not being able to be here. They couldn't find anyone to replace me, and the lady I worked with was appointed to the school board last night, and they had a meeting tonight, so I had to close the library meeting, but thank you very much.
Well, congratulations, and you're in big demand then. They can't get along without you. That's a good thing.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. And
Did you tell her the pay stays the same?
the pay's the same as it was, no raises, yes.
Now that's the same with the county, so you know, nice.
Give her a 10% raise, that's okay.
There you go. 10% of nothing is nothing. huh?
200%.
Again, congratulations, Debbie.
Thank you.
Items from the city council members, Mike?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
Yes, I had a question. Michael, we have the villas that are going in out there, and there's a good number of units that will be going into to a small area. And I know there's a homeowners association that will govern what takes place in that area. And I'd like to see if the staff could get a copy of that so we could review that. Because potentially, you know, we're going to have a lot of people in that area, a lot of cars. And I think it's important that we know before we get much farther down the road some of the problems that we could end up with.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Ted?
I've already asked Tom about that too, about the legal ramification if, let's say, they don't adhere to what they are supposed to be doing. So, and I think Tom's gonna look into that. I just had a question. I didn't know Mrs. Carlson, but every day I walk by that park. And it's not a park, it's a dip. Anyway, is there any way, Ernie, I don't know, fill it in? Do something to actually make it something usable? It's a catch basin, that's
Storm
exactly
basin,
it.
we
I
can't
don't mean to
fill it
put
in.
you on the spot here. I don't like to blindside anybody, but that thing bugs me.
No, that's the way it was actually designed. See, that is a storm drain detention basin, because that whole subdivision empties the storm water into the Clary ditch. The regulations were placed by the engineers for CCID, Central California Irrigation District, which limited the discharge of that stormwater from that subdivision at 175 gallons per minute only. Okay, so they needed a place to hold that water, and so that's what the engineering design came to. So that thing fills up in the wintertime when we have heavy rains. And that's why it's the way it is. We have issues with it a lot of times when we try mowing it and the grass is wet and that lawnmower just spins trying to climb up because those slopes are pretty steep, yes.
Where you have the soccer field, could we put tables like that up there? You have a pad with a nice table, picnic table? I mean, is it possible to do something like that?
Sure. Yeah, that's
I mean, not a lot of
possible.
them, but something there, I think it would just enhance that.
Don't we get those grants, Michael?
Yeah, we constantly, we get about $5,000 a year from recycled materials grants. And we have strategically placed benches and trash facilities throughout the city. I think Bush Rose Park was actually the last one to get the facility. So
Right.
this particular year, we can look at putting those in Janet Carlson Park. That's correct.
Can you put flowers?
Flowers.
Now, see,
Actually, flowers around the trees?
now you're going a
or-
little overboard.
Now go It's a park!
As long as they don't
It's
hit
not
them
a
with the
ditch,
lawnmower, we'll be in
But
good
it is a
shape.
ditch. I'm sorry, I'll shut up.
One of these days,
Thank you, Ernie.
Yes.
one of these days, Ted, I'll show you where the Clary ditch starts and where it ends, and you'll understand how it all
How that
flows,
works.
but yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
Was that it?
That's it.
Thank you. Ed?
Nothing else. I just would like to say the dedication I thought was great. I think Mr. Sherman and his family was deeply touched, and I think he's met his goal to be alive to see it dedicated. So, but it was a very nice ceremony.
John, one last thing. I'd like to publicly congratulate the boys' basketball team. And I hope they won tonight. That's a long
They're
shot, but it's.
playing right
I
now.
hope they won.
They're playing
They're
right now.
playing
They
right
started
now.
at 7:30, yeah.
7:30. Congratulations, boys, and coaches. You did an excellent job.
I had somebody who was gonna call me at halftime, but it must not be halftime yet because I haven't received a call, so. But yes. And if they win this evening, they will play at Arco Arena Saturday at 3:30, is what I understand, so.
Yeah, they're only playing a team that's 27-1
Mm-hmm.
and lost by 3 points to the Division I champion. Tough.
I hear they have a good chance, though.
But hey, that's why you play the game.
Ed, was that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Next meeting in March 13th, I will be in Washington DC lobbying for money for our STEMmer project, so Mayor Pro Tem, you'll be in charge. Try not to, you know,
Don't worry.
give the farm away or.
I won't.
Okay.
County's already done that.
Yes, well, that's true. And I believe that's all I had. March 17th is the Chamber of Commerce John T. Severa Awards. The tickets are printed and out, so whoever could make it, it's always a great event. Come and see you wins the award this year. I see David Reed in the audience has tickets available. And I believe that's all I had. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
We don't have a meeting. Usually we have a meeting after.
Yeah, I know. We had it before.
No, but I was